Hey everybody. So it's probably been over a week since my last video. Sorry about that. Things have been nuts for me. You guys saw my fellow YouTuber there with me, and I had him here for a whole week. And although that's not a lot on most people, I was exhausted. It's Friday of this week, and I have done as little as possible all week. I've slept as much as possible all week. So, and it's not like he's a difficult kid. He really isn't. It was just a younger kid than I'm used to. My kids are older. And although, I had them young, as a lot of people say, because of the Elhers, it was probably a really good thing I had them young, because if I had kids that age, I don't know what I'd do. I really don't. But we managed to keep up. We also had some other things that, life still goes on here. So, but anyway, my last video, I had gotten up to the part of February of 2017 when we found a cyst in the tail of my pancreas. I think I always thought it was on the tail of my pancreas, but then my surgeon showed me my MRI follow-up that he did last month, and it definitely looks like it's more in it. But either way, it doesn't matter. It is just a cyst. But we spent that month before we met with him with the very real reality of, if you look up a mass on the tail of the pancreas, the size that it was, the symptoms I was having, I was in so much pain. And as we've talked about, I have an extremely high pain tolerance. I was in so much pain that I ended up in the ER, writhing in tears in the waiting room for 2 hours, waiting on them to see me. And then I ended up having to take pain medicines for a couple of weeks. And I don't take pain medicine. I won't. I don't like the feeling it gives me. I don't like not feeling like I have my whole head. I've just never liked that. And that's part of why I have such a high pain tolerance, is because I refuse to use things that other people do sometimes. And that's just my own personal choice. I know other people use them. I don't admonish them for it. I just don't like how they make me feel. So, but anyway, and the CAT scan report and my doctor here said they thought it was cancer. So it wasn't like, and there was literally, we looked it up. There was like a 3% chance it wasn't going to be cancer. And at that, because of where it was and the size it was and the symptoms I was having before it was found, there was likely, I think it was like a 7% 1-year mortality rate. Sometimes it sucks being a nurse and knowing where to look and not using Wikipedia or WebMD. I mean, real resources and knowing what they're saying. And that's part of why we make the worst patients. So it wasn't until I saw this doctor that he told me that he really thought it was just a cyst. And I'm like, why is there so much pain? What do we do? I could only eat a few tablespoons of food at a time. I dropped like 20 pounds in a month because I almost couldn't even eat. And then one day I felt a burst. I felt like someone dumped a cold cup of water down the left side of my body, and the pain went away. And I didn't have to use the pain medicines again after that. So I immediately stopped them. That was dumb. Don't do that. And I'm not saying don't stop pain medications when you don't need them anymore, but if you've had to take them regularly for any amount of time, and like I said, I was only on them for 2 weeks, literally the 2 weeks I was in pain, that was it. And I came right off them. And I had a very small taste, and I mean a very small taste, of likely what people go through when they have to withdraw from things. I couldn't sleep because my legs wouldn't stop moving. I was nauseous all the time. My stomach hurt. I mean, it was awful. Again, another reason I don't take them. And some people need them. some people have different types of pain that aren't controlled with the types of things, that I can do for my stuff. So this in particular, I mean, what am I going to do about a cyst in my pancreas? There's nothing I can do about that really, other than go see this guy, right? So I had to use the pain medicines for a couple weeks, and I got to tell you, that sucked. And then when I did see him, and I go for a month thinking I may die in the next year. And what's going to happen to my family if that happens? And I'm not going to delve too much into that stuff, but it's really scary. I mean, I was 36 years old. I've already been wicked sick for a year and a half. Crap, right? I mean, what do you, I mean, I can't, I was just at a loss. I started making bucket lists. I started trying to think of contingency plans. And then I started to just say, all right, I really got to talk to this doctor before I freak out, right? So when I talked to him and he told me he thought it was very likely a cyst, that was a huge relief. He wanted me to do a biopsy just to be safe. He thought it was really odd that I was having that much pain with it. He said the size of it was like the size of a golf ball, that it should not be causing me the type of pain that it was. And I said, really? Because it feels like there's a softball underneath my stomach. If I even try to eat, I felt like someone had a vice around my stomach. It was awful. And that was before that bursting. Once it burst, like I said, there were maybe 3 other times in the next 6 months that I would feel pain like I had, and that I would even consider using the pain medicine. And I mean, I would have to be writhing in pain on the couch with close to tears. And usually someone had to tell me to take something. So in the evaluation of that, we discovered that everyone's anatomy is just a little bit different. Even your organs were all, there's not a cookie cutter. Okay. So, my pancreas is abnormally thick, width-wise. And what they have to do in order to do the surgery to remove the tail of the pancreas, there are multiple things that make it a very high-risk surgery. They have to take out your spleen too. And although they don't really know what your spleen does completely, I'm not saying they don't know what it does, but they don't know what it does completely. They know it's a filter for your blood. They do know that people who have had their spleens removed have a lowered immune system, especially children. Not as much in adults, but definitely children. Or it's the opposite. I should probably have looked that up before I made the video. If you're interested, Google it, because I'm not going to stop the video just to do that. But with my already other health issues, I was still having major breathing issues at this time too, because I hadn't really gotten to a point where my lungs were way better. It made me a very, very high risk for surgery. So his thoughts were, let's wait and watch. Now that you're not in pain like you were, is it worth it? And I said, no, it's not. It really isn't. Leave it there. I don't care. It's not doing anything. So we left it. I met with a new pulmonologist that summer as well. And his immediate thing was, how's your head? And I said, I've been in counseling. I've been in therapy since February. My husband and I have been in marriage counseling since the same time. Just because, things happen with this stuff. I mean, if you stop and think about the things that I've told you about, just a very little bit, because as I've said, I've not shared the private life side because it's not all mine to share. And if and when they're ready for me to share that part, I will, but only if and when everyone involved is ready for that. But you can imagine that all of this alone takes a toll on the stability of, I can't say the stability, but the coping abilities of people. And I, even coming from a great background and having the knowledge that I had and being as sick as I wasn't normal me. And everyone's ability to cope was a little low. So we realized it. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do as an adult, right? Is realize and get help. So that's what we did. And so he was happy to hear that. He said, okay, so what can I help you with? I said, well, this is what we've done and we don't understand why, I'm not getting better. So now we still think it's my lungs, right? Like, so at this point, the genetics study they gave me was in a genetics journal only, mind you. The article they gave me to explain my Ehlers had just been released in February. I'm just meeting with this pulmonologist for the first time in July. If he's read it, he's probably not putting that piece in because we're still talking about my lungs. We still don't understand my lungs aren't rehabbing. So he wanted to do some testing, and we did a few tests, and he was confused by some of them, I guess. They were odd. It was definitely a mix of my lungs and other factors that he couldn't figure out why those other factors were off. And then we did some other testing in October, and those showed that my mouth pressures were low and that my lung muscles were weak, and we couldn't figure out why. So at this point now, I'm making some major life changes to get myself healthier. I had finally quit smoking the prior April. I had relapsed last September, like August, September, for a couple of months, and then quit again in October. Not the smartest, but like I said, kind of one of my only vices and coping mechanisms. So come, I want to say December. Now we're coming up on December. I have a review coming for Social Security. I have a home that I am trying to settle into, and a kid who I'm trying to take care of on my own, and just trying to get things right, eating way healthier, not smoking again, getting ready to go to the gym, those types of things. And I have what's called a functional capacity evaluation coming up. I had met with a doctor in November who is a doctor that the pulmonologist I just met that prior summer had referred me to because he felt like I could do some level of work, but he didn't know what with all of my other medical stuff. So back up to October again, I had seen my primary care physician the same week. I saw my pulmonologist and he got those test results. And she actually had a question of Elher's. She was looking at me because my shoulder was bothering me, like in my bicep area, actually. I felt like there was something wrong with it. Like it just was giving me pain. And she had a student with her. They were doing some range of motion stuff. And the woman had my arm behind my back and she was like, "Wow, you're really flexible." I'm like, "Oh, you think that's neat? Watch this." And I'll show you what I did. And this doesn't mean you have Ehlers if you can do this, by the way. It is unusual, though. Ready? It's probably going to hurt my left shoulder right now. But okay, so if you can see, my palms are touching completely. And that's not difficult for me to do. And my left shoulder is killing me right now. So that's probably... all right, come back up. So I did that. Just, showing them that, yeah, I know my shoulders are flexible. Okay. And I saw the look on my doctor's face and she had an aha moment. And she went, "I think you have Ehlers." She goes, "Now that I'm thinking," she goes, "everything fits." So I'm like, okay. And she said, I really want to make sure that they know that stuff. Make sure they know when you go see this work doctor. So I went and saw this work doctor and I didn't remember the name. Honestly, I try not to get my hopes up at this point. I mean, we're 2 years in. This is, October coming up in November of 2017. This all started in November of 2015. I'm 2 years in. We've been focused on my breathing and no one's ever found anything. And I'm getting really frustrated and I don't have my hopes up anymore. I'd looked up Ehlers briefly, but I didn't really get into it enough to care, I guess, or to really think again about it because I just read the quick thing. This was me being the Wikipedia thing or the whatever comes up when you Google something, that thing at the top. And I was like, okay. And I went about my business of just trying to do what was best for me to make me healthiest, listening to my body, my head, and my heart and what I needed to do. So I met with the work doctor in November and we went over my medical history. And I said, my doctor said I might have something, and I don't remember what it was, honestly. I said, but it was because I showed her I could do this. And I showed them what I just showed you. And she said that, she goes, oh my God. She goes, she's right. I think she might be right. I think you might have Ehlers. I go, that's it. That's what she said. Like, okay. She goes, no, I think she might be right, actually. She goes, that makes a lot of sense. So she starts jotting down some notes. She goes, I don't know if you can do this. This test that she wanted me to do is called a functional capacity evaluation. And they see what your true work ability is based solely on your physical ability. It doesn't take the cognitive side into evaluation. There's multiple you can do. You can do this one, or you can do, there's one for Social Security when they ask for it. But Social Security wasn't asking for this. I asked for this. My doctor asked for this because I want to go back to work in any fashion that I can. My doctor said he felt like there was something I could do. Let me do it. So December, I was supposed to have that. And the week before I was supposed to do it, the morning of my first hearing at Social Security, I rolled over to hit snooze on my alarm clock and sat up on my elbow. You sit up to hit something on the nightstand, right? You lean up on your elbow. Well, my shoulder gave out. I didn't think anything of it. I went to my Social Security hearing. The judge ordered stuff for review and wanted medical experts to review stuff because he said he can't analyze raw data and there was too much medical information coming in that was new, which was true. Okay. So I couldn't do the functional capacity evaluation because I had hurt my shoulder. I ended up in the ortho clinic, and I had hurt my rotator cuff and my deltoid. They had to do a cortisone shot, and I had to do 8 weeks of physical therapy. Now, I just finally started back to the gym too, mind you. I was so excited. So cardio only it is at the gym for a little while, and I was going with some friends. And then my friends got super busy. And now this is coming up towards, February, the end of my my PT for my shoulder. And I started going on a regular basis on my own during the day because I do have a lot of time, especially in the winter, during the day where I can't do anything else. And this is ultimately what's going to get me better, right? Losing weight, getting my cardio better, my lung reserve better. Like, I'm trying to make myself better. I fell on the ice in February and hurt my knee. Ended up in physical therapy again for that. And then I want to keep this a little short, so I'm going to tell you just about April, and then I'm going to stop because this is where we start to talk about, my health is getting much better. I've actually lost at this point 63 pounds. It wasn't about losing the weight for me. It was about being the healthiest I could possibly truly be in my head for my body, and to make sure that I was in the absolute best condition I could be in. And my goal, honestly, was to be in the best condition I could be in for the functional capacity evaluation, which happened. Oh, it happened in March. So maybe I should talk about that first. So in March, I have my functional capacity evaluation. It's a 4-hour long test where they have you do different things. Some of the things that we noticed, or that were noticed by the tech during the test, was that I got dizzy 3 different times and had to sit down, like room spinning dizzy. My heart rate was really high, doing very, not so physical things. And this is, mind you, I've been going to the gym and doing cardio. I've been running wind sprints on the treadmill. I'm not trying to take care of myself. I'm eating super, super clean. I'm having 1 cup of coffee in the morning and drinking water all day and nothing else. Almost completely organic, as much as I can be. I mean, let's be honest, there are some things that are just yummy. Sorry. And he noticed some abnormal results that were indicative of something else going on as well. So, he said that I could work. This was my work capacity. He said that I could work 3 to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. But I had to go back and see the OT doctor who was going to review the medical part, because this is just what he felt I could do functionally based on the test. And this is a sedentary job, not even a light duty job, a sedentary job, like on my butt at a computer. So I went back, and discussed my things with the OT doctor. And she decided that was 3 to 4 hours a day, 3 days a week from home only, because some of my symptoms make me a risk in a company. Like if I had to go in somewhere, I get very, very dizzy suddenly. Sometimes I feel like and I've said this to you guys before, I get chest pain that they don't know isn't my heart. I had a Holter monitor. I'm still waiting on I mean, you guys saw it in the second video. You saw it all over me. I still don't have the results of that. Those take a long time to read, especially the ones that are days long, because they're looking at days of EKG. So I am a risk. I'm a fall risk. I'm a risk that something else major could be happening and they don't know what's going on. It makes me a risk in a few different ways. So I go back and I start working with the people to help you find a job through the long-term disability company for my 3 to 4 hours a day, 3 days a week from home only. And really, there aren't, I mean, if I was already working for a company, maybe, but who's going to hire me for 9 hours? I mean, let's be honest, 9 to 12 hours. Okay. And I have an associate's degree. All of my experience is in critical care as a nurse. So I started talking, I started thinking, you know what? I can go back to school for my BSN, but I'm on a fixed income here. I'm a single mom paying all of the bills on a fixed income. And it's not terrible, but my bills are still set up. Like, I still have the car payment that I had when I was making six figures, and I don't make six figures anymore, nowhere near it. So and my rent is within a reasonable amount, but especially in the winter months, I have to pay a good amount for heat and stuff. I'm hoping to curb that this year with changing my heating, but this is getting a little lengthy, so I want to wrap it up here. But I will start getting into some of the Social Security stuff. Before I saw the OT doctor and I actually had the letter from her, actually I saw her, and then the next day I had my hearing with Social Security again. And I want to talk about that in a lot of depth, so I don't want to do it during this video because I think people think very differently about how this works. And I understand the process, and I understand why it's so difficult, but it is very humiliating, and it is very difficult, and it is very degrading and demeaning for people. And I got to tell you, it's one of the worst processes I've ever been through in my life. And thank the gods and the company that I worked for, who went to bat for me with this long-term disability company, that I had the long-term disability that I did, because I am now almost 3 years out, and I will give you as much information as I can about things. I have to be, courteous and careful too, I guess. But I would not have had pay, even still to this day. 3 years out from my injury, I would have had no way. I would have had to have been on welfare, or if I didn't have this, I would have had to have moved home with I don't know what I would have had to have done. I don't know what would have happened. So there are people that don't have this stuff, though, if you really think about it. And the people that work in some of the most dangerous, professions that are taxing on the bodies don't have this stuff. So I can't even imagine. Well, I can imagine what it's like for them if something like this happens to them, and how easy it is to become not who they used to be. So if you have someone who is going through something like this, who has gotten hurt and can't work, don't assume that they could, or they're being lazy, or they're dragging something out, or whatever. Ask, talk to them, maybe see if they need some help, because I got to tell you, this process sucks. This process sucks bad, and it's a pain in the butt. And it, like I said, it's demoralizing, degrading, humiliating. If I didn't have the long-term disability, I don't know what we would have done. I don't know what I would have done at this point. I have had to take other steps to protect myself very carefully because of this. So again, I'm almost a year later. I feel like I've given you a lot of information. There's probably other stuff that happened during that year. And there is other stuff that happened during that year that I'm not sharing at this time. Health-wise, though, at this point, I'm feeling much better. I've lost, not even this point, but this point in my story. This is only a couple months ago. This is just this last spring now. in my story. We're talking, February, March, April, that timeline. I'm feeling much better. I'm finally starting to feel like a human again. I'm not punishing myself for being sick anymore. I'm treating myself well and really listening to my body. Really listening. Like if I'm at the gym and something hurt, I stopped doing it. I did something different. I changed my form if I needed to. I lowered my weight if I needed to. I slowed down on the treadmill if I needed to. And I didn't get mad at myself. I stopped maybe and asked myself, why? Why is the cat always trying to be, look, there he is. Hi, kitty. Always trying to be in my videos. Anyway, that's enough for today. This is ridiculously long, so I'm going to stop. Have a wonderful day. If you're going through this, it gets better. It really does. I promise you. Start listening to your body. Start listening to your head. Start listening to your heart. And if your head is being horrible to you, get help. Because no one can be good to you if you are being horrible to yourself all day in your head. You're not going to hear anyone else's good words. You're not going to hear anyone else's good advice. You are going to change it into something that they didn't say. You're going to change it into something they didn't mean because you're already thinking like that about yourself or your body. So do yourself a favor. Start changing the way you're thinking about yourself and treating yourself. That is the first thing you have to do. It is the best thing you can do for yourself. And if you have someone going through this, understand that that is what is going on, likely in their head, if they're not doing what you think they need to be doing. Or maybe they are, they're just not doing it in your way. Stop and really analyze that too. And if they really aren't doing things the right way, ask them why. Talk to them. Remind them that they're a good person and that they're only human, because that's all we all are, and none of us are perfect. And, start helping each other a little bit more. Don't be an asshole. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Love and light. Do the things if you want to do the things, like, share, comment, whatever. If I've helped you in any way at all, that's all that matters to me. That's it until I hopefully have a minute and some energy. More hopefully coming up. And I will see you again. Take care. Bye.